Celeb 20 news updates.
Celeb 20.
Ahead of the buzz.
All things celebrity.
So let's continue this story. All right, so everyone get ready, because we are going to take a deep dive into Marvel's new animated series.
Ooh, exciting.
It's called Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And we've got this article from Celeb 20
Okay.
that has gotten some buzz going around online. It sounds like the star of the show, Hudson Timms, had some doubts about the show at first. He even called it annoying and woke.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm curious what you think about all that.
Yeah, that is a comment that will get people talking, for sure. The word woke these days has just become so loaded.
Yeah.
You know, it's often used to just dismiss anything that even attempts to talk about
Right.
social issues or, you know, tries to push for some kind of representation in media.
You're right. It's a word you got to be careful with these days.
Yeah.
But thinking about this new show and what we know about it so far, it seems like they're really intentionally trying to be inclusive.
Exactly. And, you know, the showrunner, Jeff Trammell, has talked about wanting to portray the world as it is.
Okay.
Now, whether that's really possible in, you know, a fictional world, like this is up for debate.
Right.
But, you know, it does feel like it lines up with that idea of Spider-Man.
I see what you mean.
You know?
Yeah, Spider-Man's always been a character that anyone could see themselves in under the mask. So showing how diverse the real world is feels like a good fit for the character.
Exactly. He's always been a hero for everyone, and this new series seems like it's leaning into that even more. One big example of this is that they cast Coleman Domingo as Norman Osborn.
Yeah, and that hasn't come without some controversy.
Right.
I mean, you'd think these days seeing a black actor in a role that's usually been played by a white actor would be a big deal, but
Yeah.
unfortunately there has been some pretty bad backlash.
Yeah, it's sad to see that even with the progress we've made, there's still people pushing back against change, especially when it comes to these iconic characters.
Yeah.
You know, people get attached to certain ways. Characters have always been portrayed, and if you change that up, it can feel a threat to some people.
I get that to a degree.
Yeah.
When you've grown up with a character looking a certain way, it's hard to let go. But at the same time, it feels like if we hold on to those old images too tightly, we might miss out on new stories and new ways of looking at things.
For sure. And that's really where representation is so important. To see someone like Coleman Domingo as Norman Osborn, it can be powerful for younger viewers especially.
Right.
They start to understand that a villain can be anyone. They can look like anyone.
Yeah.
And it challenges all those old stereotypes.
And it's more than just what he looks like, right?
Right.
Coleman Domingo has his own unique skills and experiences.
Absolutely.
And that could bring something totally new to the character.
I agree. Think about how much depth he could bring to the role.
Yeah.
All the subtle things he could do with it. It's a chance to see Norman Osborn in a whole new way.
It's exciting.
It is.
It really makes you wonder what the creators are hoping to achieve with this new take on the character. What are they going for with this casting choice?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's about messing with those traditional power dynamics you see with these characters.
Interesting.
Or maybe it's about showing how complex Norman Osborn's character really is in a way.
Yeah.
We've never seen before.
Yeah, it does feel like they're adding layers to the story,
For sure.
making us really think about these characters and why they do what they do.
Yeah, and it's not just Coleman Domingo. They've got a really awesome cast all around.
Oh, absolutely. Charlie Cox is back as Daredevil,
Wow.
which is huge for fans of his Netflix show. And Hugh Dancy, who was fantastic in Hannibal, is voicing Otto Octavius.
Nice.
And we can't forget about Kari Wahlgren as Aunt May. She's a total legend when it comes to voice acting.
Yeah, they really made some top-notch casting choices.
You did.
And it's not just about having big names.
Right.
Each actor brings their own style and energy to the table.
Yeah.
It's like they're building this amazing team, every part carefully picked to make the whole thing work.
And speaking of making things work, Vincent D'Onofrio is back as Kingpin. Talk about bringing some serious weight to the show.
Yeah.
But here's what's interesting. It doesn't sound like this show is just about famous actors and big superhero fights.
You're right.
From what I've read, it sounds like they're going for something more.
It does.
It seems like they're trying to find that balance between the epic world of Spider-Man and the real-life stuff that Peter Parker has to deal with.
Yeah, so it's not all about swinging through the city and beating up bad guys.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
From what I've read, they're really diving deep into The whole high school experience.
Okay.
All those challenges that teenagers have to deal with.
Interesting.
It makes you wonder how those personal stories will connect with all the superhero stuff that's happening.
It does. It reminds me of that classic Spider-Man theme of responsibility.
Yeah.
How will all that play out in a high school setting?
Exactly. How do you balance saving the world with homework and teenage drama?
Right.
And that's what makes this so fascinating.
I agree.
It's not just about having a diverse cast or talking about social issues.
Right.
It's about figuring out what it really means to be Spider-Man, what it means to be a hero when you have to deal with everyday life.
And I think that's the kind of perspective that a lot of people can connect with, especially younger people.
Absolutely.
I mean, who hasn't felt overwhelmed trying to juggle all their responsibilities and trying to figure out where they fit in?
So true.
And if the show can pull it off,
Yeah.
if it can mix those everyday struggles with all the cool stuff that comes with Spider-Man,
Yeah.
it can be really special.
It has the potential to be something really fresh and new.
It does.
It makes you wonder what this new direction means for Spider-Man as a character.
Are they trying to bring in a whole new generation of fans?
It does make me think about that. Maybe focusing on these everyday struggles, on these things that any teenager can relate to, is a way to connect with people who wouldn't normally be into superhero stories.
Maybe you're right.
Yeah?
Maybe it's about showing that superheroes have problems just like everyone else, that they're not so different from us.
And that's what makes this whole deep dive so interesting.
Yeah.
It's not just about breaking down a new Spider-Man show. It's about looking at what this new direction could mean for the character and for superhero stories in general.
I agree. It feels like we're seeing a shift in how these kinds of stories are being told. We're seeing more inclusivity,
Right.
and we're seeing stories that try to dig a little deeper into what it means to be human, even in these fantastical worlds.
That's a great way to put it. It's really exciting to see how all of this plays out.
It is.
It's not just the serious stuff, though. It sounds like this new show is going to be pretty funny, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Humor can be such a great part of a superhero story.
Totally.
It just lightens things up,
Right.
helps break up the tension.
Especially with all the heavy stuff they're tackling in this show.
Exactly.
And it makes sense, right? Spider-Man's always had that quick wit about him.
Yeah, he always has a good quip.
Even when he's in danger.
Yeah.
It's part of what makes him such a likable character.
It really is. It's that mix of humor and heart and heroism that makes him so relatable.
Totally. And from what we're hearing, it sounds like they're doing a good job with that in this new show.
Yeah, it really does.
It makes you wonder how they're going to put all those pieces together. Will the humor be more about like Peter Parker's awkward high school life?
Yeah.
Or will we see that classic Spider-Man wit during the fight scenes?
I'm curious about that too. The article mentions that Hudson Thames really liked how the show was written.
Oh, really?
He said it perfectly captures how awkward and funny it is to be a teenager.
That's cool. It makes me think that maybe they are leaning into that coming of age part of the story. You know, using humor to show the struggles of being a teenager while still having all the exciting superhero stuff.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah.
You can get people hooked with all the action and the cool visuals,
Right.
but it's those little moments,
Yeah.
those touches of humor and emotion that really make a story stick with you.
Okay, so we've got diversity, a deep dive into real-life teen problems, some humor, and of course all the Spider-Man action you could want. Sounds like they're really going all in with this series.
They are. And what's really exciting is that it seems like they're not afraid to take risks.
Yeah.
They're pushing boundaries with the casting, looking at new themes.
Yeah.
They're really trying to make something new and different within that Spider-Man world.
It's like they're asking, what else can we do with this character? How can we make him relevant to a new generation of viewers?
And that's a good question to ask.
Yeah.
Superhero stories have been around for so long.
A long time.
You need to be creative.
Yeah.
You need to be clever to keep them feeling fresh and engaging. It seems like your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is trying to do just that.
It's definitely a show that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
It feels like they're creating something special, something that will connect with both people who have loved Spider-Man for years and people who are totally new to it.
I think so too. And that's what's so interesting about this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're not just looking at a new show. We're looking at how a cultural icon is changing and evolving.
We're seeing how they're reimagining Spider-Man for today, how his story is being told through a new lens,
Yeah.
one that reflects the world as it is now.
And that's what makes it so relevant.
Yeah.
Superhero stories at their heart are about hope, resilience, and the human spirit.
I like that.
Those themes are timeless.
They are.
But how we explore them,
Right.
the situations we put them in, those should change with the times.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's almost like Spider-Man is a mirror, reflecting our anxieties, our hopes, and our values.
That's a great way of putting it. It makes you wonder what this series says about us as a culture.
Yeah,
What are we trying to say with this new version of Spider-Man?
that's a big question.
It is.
But it's a question worth thinking about.
For
I mean, all the choices they're making with this show,
Yeah.
from the casting to the themes they're focusing on, they're all pointing towards a desire for more inclusivity, for a more accurate portrayal of the world.
And that's something to celebrate.
Yep.
It's a sign that we're moving in the right direction, that we're starting to understand how important representation is,
Yeah.
and how powerful stories can be. Stories can shape how we see the world, and they can inspire real change.
So with all that in mind,
Yeah.
what's the big takeaway for our listeners? What do you hope they get out of this deep dive?
I hope they go into your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man with an open mind,
Yeah.
to not just see it as another superhero show,
Right.
but to see it as a reflection of the times we're living in.
Okay.
A story that's not afraid to talk about important issues, and that's trying to say something real about the world.
I like that. It's about looking deeper,
Yes.
looking past the web swinging and the fights, and seeing the real heart of the story.
Exactly. And that's what makes this show so exciting.
Yeah.
It has the potential to be both entertaining and thought-provoking, to get people talking about important things and inspire us to see the world and ourselves in new ways.
And on that note, I think it's the perfect time to talk about what this all means for the future of Spider-Man. Do you think this show is a sign of a change in how we tell superhero stories?
I think it could be. We're definitely seeing more and more diversity on screen and behind the scenes.
Right.
And there's a growing understanding that we need to tell stories that reflect the real world, even in genres like fantasy and sci-fi.
It feels like your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is leading the way.
It does.
It's pushing boundaries, challenging the old ways of doing things, and paving the way for a new generation of superhero stories.
It is. And it's exciting to think about what kind of impact that could have, not just for Spider-Man, but for superhero stories as a whole.
I think it's safe to say we're entering a new era for superhero stories.
Right.
One where diversity and inclusion aren't just things people say.
Right.
They're crucial parts of making the stories better.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing where things go from here.
Me too. And for everyone listening who's excited to see how this all unfolds, don't forget that the first 2 episodes of your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man come out on January 29th.
Don't miss it.
All right, everyone. We've covered a lot in this deep dive, from the initial buzz around the show to its potential impact on the future of Spider-Man. But before we go, we want to leave you with something to think about, something to ponder as you get ready for this new Spider-Man adventure.
Think about this. In a world where we're surrounded by superhero stories, what does it take for a new one to really stand out?
What makes a superhero story really connect with people today? What are those things that make us feel something deeper?
And how can these stories inspire us, challenge us, and ultimately make us better people?
Those are some big questions.
They are.
But we think your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man has the potential to start those conversations and maybe even give us some answers.
I agree. We're excited to see how it all turns out.
It really does feel like we're at some kind of turning point, not just for Spider-Man, but for like all superhero stories.
I think so.
People want stories that are fun, but also have something to say. Stories that show us the world how it is and make us want to be better.
Exactly. And it's not just about like checking boxes
Right.
or filling quotas.
Yeah.
It's about representing things in a real and genuine way,
Right.
about telling stories that feel true to people from all walks of life.
Yeah, and your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man seems to be doing that. It's showing how diverse the world is. It's exploring themes that everyone can relate to. And it's reminding us that even superheroes deal with everyday problems.
Yeah. It's reminding us that anyone can be a hero. It
Right.
doesn't matter where you come from or what you look like. It's about the choices you make,
Yeah.
the things you do, the impact you have on the world.
That's a powerful message.
It is.
I think it's something that will speak to people of all ages. And who knows, maybe this is just the start of a whole new chapter for Spider-Man, one that's even more inclusive and shows the world as it really is.
It's a really exciting time to be a Spider-Man fan.
It is. There's so much going on, and it feels like there are so many possibilities.
It really does.
All right, well, we'll wrap things up here. We've had a great time diving into the world of your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man with you all.
It's been fun talking about all of this.
It has.
I'm sure we'll have to revisit this once the show comes out. We'll have even more to talk about then.
Definitely. Until then, keep those spidey senses sharp, and we'll catch you next time on the deep dive.
See you then.